The kick came without warning. One moment I was standing in the doorway of our Lekki apartment with a tray of jollof rice and grilled chicken for Chinidu and his friends, and the next, his foot connected with my hip so hard I stumbled sideways. The tray clattered to the marble floor. Rice scattered everywhere. The room went silent except for the football match blaring on our 65-inch TV. I said, "Bring beer, not food, you stupid woman." Chinidu's voice cut through the shock. "Can't you follow simple instructions? What would you do if you walked in on this? Hit like if you've been betrayed, and comment below where you're watching from." His three friends, Emeka, Tund, and Obinna, sat frozen on our Italian leather sofa, eyes wide. But not one of them said a word. Not one of them told their friend that kicking his wife was wrong. Emeka even smirked before quickly hiding it behind his beer bottle. My name is Adiz Okonkwo. I'm 34 years old, a financial analyst at one of Lagos's top consulting firms, and until that Saturday afternoon in March, I thought I had a good marriage. Chinidu and I had been married for 8 years. We lived in a beautiful 3-bedroom flat in one of Lagos's most exclusive neighborhoods. We drove matching Range Rovers. On Instagram, we were #couplegoals. But Instagram doesn't show you the man who kicks his wife in front of his friends over beer. I stood there, my cream-colored Ankara dress stained with jollof rice, my hip throbbing, and something inside me cracked. Not broke, cracked. Like a dam developing its first fracture before the flood. "Chinidu," I said quietly, my voice surprisingly steady. "You just kicked me." He waved his hand dismissively, already turning back to the TV. "Stop being dramatic, Adiz. Just get the beer from the fridge and clean this mess up. You're embarrassing me in front of my guys." Embarrassing him. I had taken the morning off work to prepare his favorite meals. I had cleaned the house until it sparkled. I had styled my hair and put on makeup because he always complained when I looked rough around his friends. And he was embarrassed by me. "A beg, brothers Chinidu, na small thing," Tun finally spoke up, but his tone suggested I was the problem, not the domestic violence they just witnessed. "Women, you know how they can be." I bent down slowly and began picking up the pieces of broken plate, my hands shaking. Not from fear, from rage. A rage so pure and cold it felt like ice spreading through my veins. "Leave it," Chinidu snapped. "The maid will clean it tomorrow. Just get the beer." I straightened up, looked at my husband, really looked at him, and for the first time in 8 years, I saw him clearly. The slight sneer on his handsome face. The way he sprawled on the sofa like a king on his throne. The complete lack of remorse in his eyes. "Okay," I said softly. "I'll get the beer." I walked to the kitchen, my mind eerily calm. I pulled 6 bottles of Star Lager from the fridge, arranged them on a tray, and carried them back to the living room. I set the tray on the center table with a smile. "Anything else?" I asked sweetly. Chinidu barely glanced at me. "No. You can go. You can go." Like I was the hired help in my own home. I retreated to our bedroom, closed the door, and stood in the middle of the room for 5 full minutes, just breathing. Then I walked to my closet, pulled out my suitcase, and began to pack. Not everything, just essentials. Clothes for a week. My laptop. Important documents. My grandmother's gold jewelry that Chinidu didn't even know I kept hidden. As I packed, I heard them laughing in the living room. Loud, careless laughter. The kind of laughter that comes from men who think they're untouchable. My phone buzzed. A message from my best friend, Kayamaka. "Still coming for brunch tomorrow?" I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, "Yes. And I need your help with something. Something big." 3 dots appeared then. What kind of something? I looked at my reflection in the full-length mirror. My makeup was smudged. There was a jollof rice stain on my dress. My hip was already bruising. I could see the purple edges forming beneath the fabric. But my eyes were clear. "The kind that changes everything," I typed back. I heard Chinidu's phone ring in the living room. His voice changed, softer, secretive. "Guys, hold on. I need to take this." I crept to the bedroom door and cracked it open just enough to hear. "Baby, I can't talk right now." I know. "Tomorrow, I promise." "Yes, the same hotel. Don't worry about her, she's not going anywhere." My heart should have broken. Instead, I felt nothing but that cold, crystalline clarity. Chinedu was cheating. And he had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more gripping stories like this. What would you do in Adi's position? Comment below. And remember to share this story with someone who needs to hear it. The revenge starts in the next chapter, and trust me, you won't see it coming. I didn't confront Chinedu that night. That's what he expected, what any normal, emotional wife would do. Storm into the living room, scream, cry, throw things, make a scene in front of his friends. Give him the excuse to paint me as the crazy, jealous wife while he played the victim. Instead, I finished packing my suitcase in silence, zipped it closed, and slid it under the bed where he wouldn't notice. Then I took a long shower, washed the jollof rice from my hair, and examined the bruise blooming across my hip. It was the size of his shoe print, evidence I photographed from 3 different angles with my phone. By the time his friends left around midnight, I was in bed with the lights off, pretending to sleep. Chinedu stumbled into the bedroom, reeking of beer. He didn't apologize. Didn't check if I was okay. He simply stripped down to his boxers and climbed into bed beside me like nothing had happened. "Adiz," he mumbled, his hand sliding across my waist. I went rigid. After kicking me, embarrassing me, and taking a call from his mistress, he wanted to touch me? "I have a headache," I said flatly. He sighed dramatically. "You always have a headache." But he rolled away, and within minutes, he was snoring. I lay there in the darkness, my mind racing through everything I knew about my husband. Our joint bank accounts. His business investments. The property we co-owned. The luxury car dealership he'd opened last year with my money. 2 million naira for my savings that he'd promised to pay back with interest. He'd paid back nothing. I picked up my phone and began taking screenshots. Bank statements. Investment portfolios. Property deeds. Email passwords. Everything was on my phone. Chinedu was careless that way, always leaving his devices unlocked, confident that I was too submissive to ever check. The cheating spouse always underestimates the betrayed wife. At 6 a.m., Chinedu's phone buzzed on the nightstand. A WhatsApp message lit up the screen. "Last night was amazing, baby. Can't wait for our Abuja trip next week. Did you tell her yet?" The message was from a contact saved as Bro Kingsley. But the profile picture showed a beautiful woman in her 20s, light-skinned with long Brazilian weave, pouting at the camera. My hand trembled as I picked up his phone. The screen was still unlocked. He'd been too drunk to enable Face ID before passing out. I opened WhatsApp and began scrolling through their conversation. What I found made my stomach turn. 6 months. They'd been seeing each other for 6 months. Her real name was Rhoda. She was 26, worked as a sales representative, and from the messages, she had no idea Chinedu was married. He'd told her I was his ex-wife, who refused to move out of the house. "I'm handling it, baby," one of his messages read. "Soon she'll be gone and we can be together properly. I'm just waiting for the right time. You know these Nigerian women can be vindictive when you try to divorce them." Vindictive. He had no idea. I scrolled further and found something that made everything worse. Photos. Videos. Intimate moments between Chinedu and Rhoda in hotel rooms I recognized. Expensive suites at the Eco Hotel, the Intercontinental, places he told me he was staying for business conferences. But the worst part? In one video, taken just 2 weeks ago, Chinedu was laughing while showing Rhoda pictures of me on his phone. See my burden? 8 years of this. But don't worry, I'm working on my exit strategy. Exit strategy. Like I was a business problem to be solved, not the woman who had supported him through his failed business ventures, who had paid for his mother's surgery last year, who had stood by him when he lost his job and couldn't find work for 9 months. I was his exit strategy. My fingers moved automatically, forwarding the entire conversation to my own phone, along with all the photos and videos. Then I carefully deleted the evidence of what I'd done and placed his phone back on the nightstand exactly as I'd found it. Chinedu stirred beside me, rolling over. "What time is it?" "Just after 6, I said softly, my voice the same gentle tone I'd used for 8 years. "I'm going to brunch with Kayamika today, remember?" He grunted. "Whatever. Make sure you're back by 3 p.m. My parents are coming for dinner." His parents. The same parents who had told me at our wedding that my only job was to serve their son and give them grandchildren. The same parents who called me that Igbo girl, even though Chinedu was Igbo too. I just wasn't from their specific village, which apparently made me inferior. "Of course," I said sweetly. "I'll prepare your mother's favorite egusi soup." "Good." He was already falling back asleep. I got up, dressed in a simple jeans and Ankara print top, and grabbed my handbag. Inside was my phone, my laptop, and a USB drive containing copies of everything I'd just discovered. I stopped in the doorway of our bedroom and looked back at Chinedu, sprawled across the bed like he owned the world. "Enjoy your sleep, darling," I whispered. "It's the last peaceful one you'll have for a long time." Kayamika's apartment in Victoria Island was a 20-minute drive from Lekki. She opened the door before I could knock, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. "Jesus, Ada. What happened? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse," I said, sinking onto her velvet sofa. "I've seen the truth." I told her everything. The kick. The phone call. The messages. The affair. The exit strategy. Kayamika's eyes grew wider with each revelation. When I finished, she was pacing her living room, her long braids swinging with each agitated turn. "That bastard," she hissed. "That absolute bastard. Ada, we need to report this. Domestic violence, emotional manipulation." "No," I said firmly. "Not yet." She stopped pacing. "What do you mean, not yet?" "Ada, he assaulted you." "And I have evidence," I said, pulling out my phone. "Evidence of the assault, the affair, the financial misconduct. But if I go to the police now, what happens?" "He denies everything. His family closes ranks. His friends back him up. You know how it works in Lagos. Men like Chinedu always have connections. I become the bitter, vindictive wife trying to destroy a good man's reputation." Kayamika studied me carefully. "So what are you planning?" I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Remember your cousin? The one who's a lawyer specializing in matrimonial disputes." "Ngozi. What about her?" "I need an appointment. Today." "Ada." Kayamika's voice was cautious. "What exactly are you planning?" My phone buzzed. A message from Chinedu: "Buy fish for the soup. Fresh fish, not frozen. And call my mother to confirm dinner time." I looked up at Kayamika, and she must have seen something in my eyes that made her take a step back. "I'm planning," I said quietly, "to teach my husband exactly what happens when you underestimate an Igbo woman." What do you think Adiz should do next? Comment below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. The next chapter is where the Real revenge begins. Share this story with anyone who's ever been underestimated. Ngozi Okoro's law office was located on the 15th floor of a gleaming glass building in Ikoyi, with a view of Lagos Harbor that probably cost more than most people's annual salary. She was 42, sharp as a razor, and had a reputation for destroying cheating husbands in divorce court. "So," Ngozi said, leaning back in her leather chair after I'd finished my story, "your husband physically assaulted you, he's having an affair, and he's planning to divorce you while keeping all the assets you helped him build. Do I have that right?" "Yes," I said. "But there's more." I pulled out my laptop and opened a folder containing everything I'd compiled over the past few hours: bank statements, property deeds, business registration documents, and the messages between Chinedu and Rhoda. Ngozi's eyebrows rose as she scrolled through the files. "You've been busy." "I'm a financial analyst," I said. "This is what I do. And what I've discovered is that my husband has been systematically moving our joint assets into accounts I can't access. The car dealership I funded? It's registered solely in his name. The investment property we bought in Abuja? Also his name only. Even this laptop I'm using, I bought it with my salary, but the receipt is in his name. Ngozi looked up sharply. He's been preparing for this. For at least a year, I confirmed. Maybe longer. I think the affair with Rhoda is just the latest. There were others. I found deleted messages from at least 3 different women over the past 2 years. Kayamika, sitting beside me, made a strangled sound. Ada, why didn't you say anything? Because I didn't know, I said quietly. Or maybe I didn't want to know. It's easier to pretend everything's fine when the alternative means admitting your entire marriage is a lie. Ngozi nodded knowingly. She'd probably heard this story 100 times before. Here's what we're dealing with. Nigerian matrimonial law is complicated. You're married under the Marriage Act, which means you're entitled to a fair share of marital assets. But proving what constitutes marital assets when everything's in his name is difficult. Expensive. Time-consuming. My heart sank. So I'm going to lose everything. I didn't say that. Ngozi's smile was predatory. I said it's difficult. Not impossible. Especially when we have this. She tapped my laptop screen, indicating the financial records. This is evidence of financial fraud within a marriage. And this, she clicked on the photos of my bruised hip, is evidence of domestic violence. Together, they paint a very ugly picture of your husband. What are you suggesting? I asked. I'm suggesting we don't play fair, Ngozi said bluntly. Your husband has spent years positioning himself to take everything while leaving you with nothing. We need to do the same, but better. We need to hit him where it hurts most. His reputation, Kayamika said suddenly. In Lagos, reputation is everything for business. Ngozi pointed at her. Exactly. Your husband runs a luxury car dealership. His clients are wealthy Lagosians who care about image, integrity, respectability. What happens when they discover he's a wife-beater who defrauds his business partners? I felt a chill run through me. You want me to destroy his business? I want you to protect yourself, Ngozi corrected. Everything else is just consequences of his own actions. But we need to move carefully. Strategically. If we rush this, he'll see it coming and find ways to hide assets further. She pulled out a legal pad and began writing. Here's what we're going to do. First, you go home. Act normal. Be the dutiful wife he expects. Meanwhile, I'll file a formal complaint about the domestic violence, but we won't serve him yet. We'll hold that as leverage. Leverage for what? I asked. For negotiations. Once we're ready to move, we'll present him with 2 options. A quiet, fair divorce settlement where he splits assets appropriately and you both walk away with your reputations intact, or a very public, very messy legal battle where every dirty secret comes to light. He won't agree to that, I said. You don't know Chinedu. He's arrogant. He thinks he's untouchable. Then we go with option 2, Ngozi said simply. And trust me, by the time we're done, he'll wish he'd taken the settlement. Kayamika leaned forward. What about the girlfriend? Rhoda. Ngozi's smile turned wicked. Oh, we'll definitely be having a conversation with Rhoda. She deserves to know who she's really sleeping with. And her testimony about his deception could be very useful in court. My phone buzzed. Another message from Chinedu. Where are you? My mother called asking about dinner. Why haven't you confirmed with her? I showed Ngozi the message. She shook her head. Classic control tactic. Making you responsible for managing his family relationships. Does he do this often? Every day, I admitted. His parents, his siblings, his friends. I'm expected to coordinate everything while maintaining my full-time job and managing our household. Document it, Ngozi instructed. Every message, every demand, every instance of him treating you like an employee rather than a partner. It all builds our case. We spent the next hour strategizing. Ngozi outlined a timeline, 2 weeks of preparation, gathering more evidence, securing my personal assets. Then we'd strike. 2 weeks? I asked. I have to pretend everything's normal for 2 more weeks? Can you do it? Ngozi asked seriously. Because if you confront him too soon, if he suspects anything, he'll hide everything and you'll end up with nothing. I've seen it happen too many times. The wife who can't control her anger, who tips her hand too early, she loses. I thought about Chinedu's foot connecting with my hip, his laughter with his friends, his voice on the phone with Rhoda. Don't worry about her, she's not going anywhere. I can do it, I said firmly. I stopped at the market on the way home and bought fresh tilapia for the egusi soup. I even called Chinedu's mother, Mama Ojeki, and confirmed dinner for 6 p.m. with appropriate deference and respect. "Adiz, my dear," Mama Ojeki said over the phone, her Igbo accent thick. "Make sure the soup is not too peppery. You know my son doesn't like too much pepper. And the fufu should be smooth, eh? Last time there were lumps." "Yes, Ma," I said sweetly. "Everything will be perfect. Good girl. That's why we chose you for our son. You know how to respect your husband and his family." I disconnected the call and gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. When I got home, Chinedu was in the living room, talking on the phone. He glanced up at me with irritation. "You took long enough. Did you get the fish?" "Yes, darling," I said, holding up the bag. "Fresh tilapia, just like you asked." His expression softened slightly. "Good. My parents will be here at 6 sharp. Make sure the house is presentable." I spent the afternoon cooking and cleaning while Chinedu lounged in the living room, watching football and drinking beer. Every so often he'd call out instructions. "Ada, these pillows need straightening. Ada, there's dust on the TV stand. Ada, my water glass is empty." Each command felt like another piece of evidence for Ngozi's case. At exactly 6 p.m., the doorbell rang. Chinedu's parents arrived with his younger sister, Ifeoma, who immediately began inspecting the house like she was a hotel critic. "Brother, the house looks nice," Ifeoma said grudgingly. "At least Ada knows how to keep a clean home." Dinner was a performance. I served everyone while Chinedu sat at the head of the table like a king. His father, Papa Ojeki, barely acknowledged my presence. His mother criticized the consistency of the fufu, a bit thick, but edible. And Ifeoma spent the entire meal talking about her upcoming wedding, expecting me to take notes on catering arrangements. "Adiz will help you plan it," Mama Ojeki declared. "She's good at these things. And it will be good practice for when she finally gives us grandchildren." I felt Chinedu tense beside me. We'd been trying for a baby for 3 years without success. It was a sore subject. Specifically, it was my fault, according to his family, despite medical tests showing no issues with my fertility. "We're working on it, Mama," Chinedu said tersely. "Working on it for 8 years, Papa Ojeki muttered. "In my day, a woman who couldn't give her husband children would be sent back to her father." The table went silent. I kept my eyes on my plate, my hand steady even though I wanted to throw the soup pot at his head. "Papa, that's not fair," Ifeoma said quietly. Even she looked uncomfortable. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking," Papa Ojeki continued. "Chinedu is a successful man. He could have any woman he wants. Any woman who could give him sons." Chinedu said nothing. He didn't defend me. Didn't tell his father to stop. He just sat there, cutting his fish into smaller pieces, acting like I wasn't sitting right beside him. That's when I made my decision. 2 weeks was too long. I would give Chinedu one more chance, one final opportunity to prove he was worth saving. And if he failed... "Excuse me," I said softly, standing from the table. "I need to use the restroom." I walked calmly to our bedroom, closed the door, and pulled out my phone. I sent 3 messages. One to Ngozi, speed up the timeline, one to Kayamika, I can't do 2 weeks, and one to an unknown number I'd found in Chinedu's phone. To Rhoda, I wrote, "We need to talk. It's about Chinedu Okonkwo. I'm his wife." The reply came within seconds. "His what?" The truth is finally coming out. What do you think Rhoda will do when she learns everything? Comment below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the next chapter. Things are about to get explosive. Share this with anyone who loves a good revenge story. Rhoda called me at 11 p.m. that night. I was in the bathroom with the shower running so Chinedu wouldn't hear. His parents had finally left around 9, and he'd immediately retreated to the living room with more beer, still not speaking to me after his father's cruel comments about my supposed infertility. "Hello," I answered quietly. "Is this some kind of joke?" Rhoda's voice was high-pitched, panicked. "Because if this is his wife trying to start drama—" "It's not a joke," I said calmly. "My name is Adiz Okonkwo. I've been married to Chinedu for 8 years. We live together in Lekki. Would you like our address? Or maybe you'd prefer to see our marriage certificate?" Silence. Then, he told me. He said you were divorced. That you were just his ex who wouldn't move out. And you believed him? Did you ever wonder why he never brought you to his house? Why you only met in hotels? Why he could never spend the night? I heard her breathing, fast and shallow. She was crying. "I have a daughter," Rhoda whispered. "A 3-year-old daughter. He said he wanted to be a father to her. That once you were gone, we could be a real family." My heart clenched. A child. Rhoda had a child, and Chinedu had been using that vulnerability to manipulate her. "Rhoda," I said gently, "I'm not your enemy. He lied to both of us. But I need you to understand something. Chinedu is dangerous. Not just emotionally. Physically." "What do you mean?" I sent her the photos of my bruised hip. "He did this 2 days ago. Kicked me in front of his friends because I brought him food instead of beer." Rhoda's gasp was audible. "Oh my God. Oh my God, I had no idea. He's always so sweet with me, so gentle. He bought my daughter toys, took us to the beach." "Because he was playing a role," I interrupted. "The role of the perfect boyfriend. But that's not who he is. The real Chinedu is the one who kicks his wife, steals from her bank accounts, and plans to abandon her after she's spent years supporting him." "Why are you telling me this?" Rhoda asked suspiciously. "What do you want from me?" "The truth," I said. "I need you to testify about your relationship with him, about his lies. In exchange, I'll make sure you're protected. My lawyer can help you if he tries to retaliate." "Testify? Like in court?" "If it comes to that, yes." Another long silence. Then, Can I meet you? In person? I need to see you're real. That this isn't some elaborate prank." I glanced at the bathroom door. Chinedu thought I was taking a shower. "Tomorrow," I said. "Terra Culture in Victoria Island. Noon. Come alone." "I will," Rhoda said. Then softer, "I'm sorry. I didn't know he was married. I would never. I'm not that kind of woman." "I know," I said, surprising myself by meaning it. "He's good at lying. It's what he does best." The next morning, Chinedu was in an unusually good mood. He actually kissed my forehead before leaving for work, the first affectionate gesture in months. "I'm sorry about last night," he said, adjusting his tie in the mirror. "My father was out of line. You know how old people can be." I stared at him. He was apologizing for his father's behavior, not his own silence. Not the years of letting his family disrespect me. Not the affair, or the financial fraud, or the fact that he'd kicked me 2 days ago. "It's fine," I said, because that's what he expected to hear. "Good." He grabbed his briefcase. "I'll be late tonight. Meeting with potential investors for the dealership expansion." "Don't wait up." Meeting with potential investors. Right. More like meeting with Rhoda, except Rhoda would be with me instead. After he left, I dressed carefully for my meeting, a navy blue dress, modest jewelry, natural makeup. I wanted to look professional, unthreatening. Whatever Rhoda imagined a bitter wife to look like, I needed to be the opposite. Terra culture was busy when I arrived, filled with Lagos's creative class having late breakfasts and early lunches. I chose a table near the back, ordered ginger tea, and waited. Rhoda arrived 15 minutes late, looking terrified. She was even more beautiful in person than in her photos. Caramel skin, long weave perfectly styled, designer handbag that probably cost more than she earned in a month. Chinidu's type exactly. Young, pretty, and impressed by expensive things. "Adiz?" she asked hesitantly. I stood and extended my hand. "Thank you for coming." She shook it limply and sat down, her eyes darting around like she expected Chinidu to appear at any moment. "This is crazy. This whole situation is crazy." "I know," I said. "Can I order you something? Coffee? Food? Just water?" Her hands were shaking. When the waiter left, I pulled out my phone and showed her everything. The messages between her and Chinidu. The photos of him showing her my pictures and laughing. The timeline of his other affairs. The evidence of our marriage. With each revelation, Rhoda's face grew paler. "I'm an idiot," she finally said, tears streaming down her face. "I'm such an idiot. My friends warned me. They said a man like him, handsome, successful, driving expensive cars, doesn't date a single mother unless he wants something. But he was so convincing. So charming." "He's had practice," I said dryly. "How many others were there?" Rhoda asked. "That I know of? 3 in the past 2 years. But probably more." Rhoda put her head in her hands. "I let him meet my daughter. I let him into our lives. What kind of mother am I?" "A trusting one," I said. "That's not a character flaw, Rhoda. He's the problem, not you." She looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "Why aren't you angry with me? I slept with your husband. I should be the enemy." "You didn't know," I said simply. "And being angry with you doesn't solve my problem. Chinidu does. He's the one who broke his marriage vows. He's the one who lied to both of us." Rhoda wiped her eyes with a napkin. "What do you need me to do?" I slid a business card across the table. "Ngozi's contact information. Call my lawyer. Tell her everything about your relationship with Chinidu. The lies he told, the promises he made, the timeline. Everything." "Will I have to see him again?" Rhoda asked nervously. "Not if you don't want to. Just give your statement to my lawyer. If this goes to court, you might need to testify, but we'll protect you. I promise." She picked up the card, studying it. "What are you going to do? To him, I mean." I smiled, and it must have been a frightening smile because Rhoda actually leaned back. "I'm going to take everything," I said quietly. "His reputation. His business. His pride. Everything he values more than the woman who stood by him for 8 years." "Good," Rhoda said fiercely. "That bastard deserves it." We talked for another hour. She told me about how they'd met, at a product launch where he'd approached her, claiming to be divorced. How he'd love-bombed her with expensive gifts and romantic gestures. How he'd promised to help her expand her business once they were officially together. It was textbook manipulation, and I'd lived through a version of it myself 8 years ago when Chinidu was courting me. "There's something else," Rhoda said hesitantly as we were preparing to leave. "Something I probably should have told you earlier." My stomach dropped. "What?" "Last week, Chinidu asked me to invest in his dealership expansion. Said he needed capital and that as his future wife, I should show commitment to our partnership. He wanted £500,000. "Did you give it to him?" I asked, already knowing the answer. She nodded miserably. "I emptied my savings. My mother's contribution too. She's been saving to help me expand my shop. We gave him £750,000 total. He said he'd pay us back with interest within 6 months." I closed my eyes. Of course. Of course Chinidu was defrauding Rhoda too. It wasn't enough to sleep with her. He had to steal from her as well. "Rhoda," I said carefully, "that money is gone. He's not expanding the dealership. He's moving funds around to hide them from me before the divorce. Your $750,000 is probably in an offshore account by now. Her face crumpled. My mother's going to kill me. That was her life savings. She trusted me, and I. We'll get it back, I interrupted. Not all of it, maybe, but some. My lawyer can help you file a fraud complaint. Combined with the adultery and domestic violence charges, it's another nail in his coffin. Rhoda looked at me with something like awe. You're really going to destroy him, aren't you? I'm really going to try. I got home at 3 p.m. to find Chinedu's car already in the driveway. Strange, he'd said he'd be working late. Inside, I found him in the bedroom, packing a suitcase. What's going on? I asked, genuine confusion cutting through my carefully maintained composure. He didn't look at me. Business trip. Abuja. Leaving in an hour. Business trip. The same Abuja trip he'd mentioned to Rhoda in their messages. The romantic getaway he'd planned with his mistress. Except Rhoda wouldn't be going. She'd be meeting with Ngozi instead. How long? I asked. 3 days. Maybe 4. He zipped the suitcase closed. You'll be fine on your own, won't you? Of course, I said. I always am. He finally looked at me, his expression unreadable. Ada, about the other night. The incident with my friends. You mean when you kicked me? His jaw tightened. It was an accident. I was frustrated. You know how I get when things are stressful. An accident, I repeated flatly. Yes, an accident. I didn't mean to hurt you. He moved closer, placing his hands on my shoulders. You know I love you, right? Sometimes I lose my temper. But I'd never actually hurt you on purpose. I looked into his eyes, those same eyes that had captivated me 8 years ago, and saw absolutely nothing. No remorse. No love. Just calculation. He was testing me. Seeing if I'd accept his half-apology, if I'd let this become the new normal. I know, I lied. I love you too. Relief flooded his face. He actually believed me. I'll call you when I land. Maybe bring you back something nice from Abuja, yeah. That would be lovely. He kissed my forehead and left with his suitcase, whistling. The moment his car pulled out of the driveway, I called Ngozi. He just left for Abuja, I said. We have 3 days. Perfect, Ngozi replied. I've already drafted the divorce papers. And I just got off the phone with Rhoda. Her testimony is damning. Between her statement, the domestic violence evidence, and the financial records, we have everything we need. What's the next step? Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., meet me at my office. We're going to freeze his accounts before he can hide any more money. Then we're going to pay a visit to his business partners. By the time Chinedu gets back from Abuja, his entire world will have collapsed. I looked around our bedroom, the king-size bed with its silk sheets, the walk-in closet full of designer clothes, the expensive artwork on the walls. All of it purchased with my money, my sacrifice, my years of tolerating disrespect. See you tomorrow, I said. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Chinedu has no idea what's coming for him. What do you think will happen when he returns from Abuja? Drop your predictions in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. The next chapter is when everything falls apart for Chinedu, and you won't want to miss it. At 9 a.m. sharp, I walked into Ngozi's office carrying a briefcase full of documents and a determination that felt like steel in my spine. You look different, Ngozi observed, gesturing for me to sit. Stronger. I feel different, I admitted. For 8 years, I've been playing the role of the perfect wife. The dutiful daughter-in-law. The woman who shrinks herself to make everyone else comfortable. I'm done shrinking. Ngozi smiled approvingly. Good. Because what we're about to do requires a woman with a backbone of iron. Are you ready? I nodded. She spread several documents across her desk. First, the domestic violence complaint has been officially filed with the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team. We have your photos, your medical report from the doctor you saw yesterday. Wait, what medical report? I interrupted. The one Kayamika convinced you to get, Ngozi said. She called me last night. Said she dragged you to a clinic in Ikoyi where a doctor documented your injuries and provided a medical certificate. Smart woman, your friend. I made a mental note to thank Kayamika properly. I'd been so focused on the legal and financial revenge that I'd overlooked the importance of medical documentation. Second, Ngozi continued, we filed an injunction to freeze Chinedu's primary business accounts pending investigation into financial fraud within your marriage. The judge granted it this morning. As of 8 a.m., your husband cannot access approximately 15 million naira in his dealership accounts. My eyes widened. 15 million? I thought the business had maybe 5 million in capital. So did I, until I had a forensic accountant review the statements you provided. Turns out your husband has been very busy. He's not just selling luxury cars, he's running a side operation importing vehicles under false declarations to avoid customs duties. That's tax fraud, Ada. Federal crime. I sat back in my chair, stunned. I had no idea. Most wives don't, Ngozi said. Men like Chinedu are very good at compartmentalizing their crimes. But here's the beautiful part. Because you're legally married and some of these transactions were conducted through your joint accounts, you can claim ignorance. You're a victim of his fraud, not an accomplice. And Chinedu? Chinedu is going to have a very interesting conversation with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission when he returns from Abuja. Ngozi's smile was pure satisfaction. I have a contact there. They're very interested in his import operation. My phone buzzed. A message from Chinedu landed safely. Hotel is nice. Miss you. Miss you. The lies came so easily to him. He thinks everything's fine, I said, showing Ngozi the message. Let him think that. The longer he's unsuspecting, the more rope he has to hang himself with. Ngozi pulled out another folder. Now, about his business partners. I've done some digging. The dealership has 3 major investors besides Chinedu. One of them is a woman named Josephine Adeyemi, old money Lagos family, very religious, very conservative. She would not be pleased to discover her business partner is a domestic abuser and adulterer. You want to tell her? I asked. I want you to tell her. Woman to woman. Today, if possible. My stomach churned with anxiety. Josephine Adeyemi was Lagos royalty. Her family had been in business since colonial times. The idea of approaching her with this mess made me want to hide. But then I thought about Chinedu's foot connecting with my hip. His laughter with Rhoda. His father's cruel words about sending me back to my family. Set up the meeting, I said firmly. Josephine Adeyemi's office was in a restored colonial building in Ikoyi, all high ceilings and antique furniture that screamed old money. Her secretary showed me into a parlor where Mrs. Adeyemi sat reviewing documents, reading glasses perched on her nose. She was in her late 60s, elegant in traditional iro and buba, with a kind of commanding presence that made you sit up straighter. Mrs. Okonkwo, she said, gesturing to the chair across from her. This is unexpected. I wasn't aware you were involved in your husband's business affairs. I'm not, I said. That's part of the problem. Her eyebrows rose. Oh. I had rehearsed this conversation with Ngozi, but now that I was here, the words felt clumsy in my mouth. Still, I pushed forward. Mrs. Adeyemi, I need to inform you of some developments concerning Chinedu Okonkwo that may affect your investment in his dealership. Developments of a personal and legal nature. I'm listening. I pulled out the folder Ngozi had prepared, sanitized versions of the documents that wouldn't violate attorney-client privilege but would paint a clear picture. The domestic violence complaint. Evidence of marital infidelity. The forensic accountant's preliminary findings about irregular financial transactions. Mrs. Adeyemi read through everything in silence, her expression growing colder with each page. This is quite serious, she finally said. If these allegations are true, they're true, I interrupted. I have photographs of my injuries, testimony from a witness to the affair, and my lawyer has already filed the necessary complaints with the appropriate authorities. Why are you bringing this to me? Mrs. Adeyemi asked. Surely this is a matter between you and your husband. Because I was told you're a woman of faith and principle, I said. And I thought you deserved to know who you're in business with. Chinedu has defrauded me. He's defrauded his girlfriend, a single mother he stole 750,000 naira from. How long before he defrauds his business partners? Mrs. Adeyemi's lips thinned. The tax fraud mentioned in this report, the customs violations, if this becomes public, it could destroy the dealership's reputation. My family's name is attached to this business. We cannot be associated with criminal activity. I understand, I said. That's why I'm here. My lawyer is prepared to work with you to protect your investment and your reputation. But you need to act quickly, before this becomes a public scandal. She set down the documents and studied me carefully. You're not just here to inform me, are you? You want something. I want justice, I said. And I want to ensure that when this is over, Chinedu Okonkwo doesn't have the resources to hurt anyone else. If that means dismantling his business, so be it. Dismantling the business would cost me millions, Mrs. Adeyemi pointed out. Staying in business with a criminal could cost you more, I countered. Your reputation. Your family's legacy. Is Chinedu Okonkwo worth that risk? A long silence stretched between us. Outside, Lagos traffic hummed and honked in its eternal chaos. Finally, Mrs. Adeyemi picked up her phone. Get me my lawyer, she said to whoever answered, and schedule an emergency meeting with the other investors in the Okonkwo dealership. Today, if possible. She looked at me. You'll need to be there to explain all of this to the others. My heart raced. Of course. One more thing, Mrs. Okonkwo, she said as I stood to leave. Why didn't you come to me sooner? Surely these problems didn't develop overnight. I thought about all the times I'd excused Chinedu's behavior, all the warning signs I'd ignored, all the years I'd convinced myself that things would get better. Because I was afraid, I admitted. Afraid of being judged, afraid of losing everything, afraid of admitting my marriage was a failure. Mrs. Adeyemi nodded slowly. Fear is a cage we build for ourselves. I'm glad you finally found the key. She paused. My own daughter went through something similar with her husband. We're Yoruba. In our culture, women are taught to endure, to preserve the marriage at all costs. It took her nearly dying before she finally left him. Is she okay now? I asked. She's thriving. Runs her own company. Happier than I've ever seen her. Mrs. Adeyemi's expression softened. You'll thrive too, child. Once you're free of the weight of a bad man. The investor meeting was scheduled for 4 p.m. at a private club in Victoria Island. Besides Mrs. Adeyemi, there were two other major investors, a tech entrepreneur named Femi Olawale and a banker named Ibrahim Hassan. Together, the three of them controlled 60% of the dealership's equity. Ngozi accompanied me, playing the role of legal counsel. She was magnificent, cool, professional, devastating in her presentation of facts. Gentlemen, Mrs. Adeyemi, she began, we're here to discuss Mr. Chinedu Okonkwo's fitness to continue as managing partner of the luxury car dealership you've invested in. My client, Mrs. Adiz Okonkwo, has uncovered evidence of criminal activity that poses significant legal and reputational risks to your investment. She laid out everything. The domestic violence, the fraud, the tax evasion, the pattern of deception with multiple women including financial exploitation. Femi Olawale looked physically ill. This can't be real. Chinedu's always been a stand-up guy. A bit flashy, maybe, but not a criminal. Flashy is often a mask, Ngozi said. My forensic accountant found irregularities dating back 18 months. Mr. Okonkwo has been systematically inflating inventory costs and pocketing the difference. We estimate he's stolen approximately 3 million naira from the business. Ibrahim Hassan slammed his hand on the table. That's my money. Our money. Why wasn't this caught sooner? Because he's the managing partner, Mrs. Adeyemi said coldly. We trusted him to run the day-to-day operations while we provided capital. A mistake, clearly. What are our options? Femi asked Ngozi. You can dissolve the partnership and cut your losses, or you can remove Mr. Okonkwo from his position and attempt to salvage the business under new management. Either way, you'll want to move quickly, before the EFCC investigation becomes public knowledge. EFCC. Ibrahim's face went pale. We're being investigated by economic and financial crimes? Mr. Okonkwo is being investigated, Ngozi clarified. But as his business partners, you'll be questioned. Unless you cooperate fully and demonstrate that you were unaware of his criminal activities. The three investors looked at each other, and I could see the calculation happening. Their reputations, their money, their futures, all suddenly at risk because they'd trusted the wrong man. I move that we vote to immediately remove Chinedu Okonkwo as managing partner, Mrs. Adeyemi said, and that we appoint an interim manager to secure the business assets pending further investigation. Seconded, said Femi. All in favor? Mrs. Adeyemi looked around the table. 3 hands went up. Unanimous. Just like that, Chinedu's business empire began to crumble. I was driving home when my phone rang. Chinedu's name flashed on the screen. Hello. I answered, keeping my voice neutral. Ada, something weird just happened. He sounded confused, not yet alarmed. I tried to transfer money from the business account to pay for this hotel, and my card was declined. All my cards. Even our joint account. That is weird, I said innocently. Maybe it's a bank error? That's what I thought, but I called the bank and they said the accounts are frozen. Some kind of legal issue. Do you know anything about this? No, I lied smoothly. Why would I? I don't know, it's just strange timing. Right when I'm out of town. His voice carried a hint of suspicion now. You haven't done anything, have you, Ada? No sudden meetings with lawyers or anything like that. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. He was starting to piece it together. Of course not, I said. Why would you even ask that? Just checking. Look, I need you to wire me some money. Maybe 200,000 naira. Just until this gets sorted out. I don't have 200,000 naira just lying around, Chinedu. Yes, you do. Your salary account. You make good money, Ada. Just wire it to me. I'll pay you back when this bank nonsense is resolved. The audacity. After everything he'd done, he expected me to fund his romantic getaway with Rhoda, except Rhoda had already cancelled on him, leaving him stranded in Abuja with frozen accounts. I'll see what I can do, I said. But it might take a day or two. A day or two. Ada, I need it now. What am I supposed to do? Sleep on the street? You're a resourceful man, I said sweetly. I'm sure you'll figure something out. I have to go, I'm driving. We'll talk later. I hung up before he could respond. 60 seconds later, he called back. I didn't answer. He called again. And again. 10 times in 5 minutes, each call angrier than the last. Finally, a text, I know you did something. When I get home, you and I are going to have a serious conversation. A serious conversation. Code for violence, probably. But Chinedu wasn't coming home to the wife he'd terrorized for 8 years. He was coming home to a woman who'd finally learned to fight back. Chinedu's world is falling apart and he doesn't even know the half of it yet. What do you think happens when he finally makes it back to Lagos? Comment below. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. Chinedu faces the full consequences of his actions. Share this story with anyone who needs to see that karma is real. Chinedu made it back to Lagos 2 days later, and I wasn't there to greet him. I'd moved out the morning after our phone conversation, taking only what belonged to me. My clothes, my laptop, my grandmother's jewelry, and the few personal items I couldn't bear to leave behind. Kayamika had helped me pack everything into her SUV while Chinedu sent increasingly threatening messages from Abuja. "You better be home when I get back. I'm warning you, Ada. Don't make this worse. My mother is calling me asking questions." "What did you tell her?" "Answer your phone." I answered none of them. Instead, I moved into a serviced apartment in Victoria Island that Ngozi had arranged. Secure, private, and far enough from Lekki that Chinedu couldn't just show up unannounced. When Chinedu finally landed at Murtala Muhammad Airport on Friday evening, he went straight to our apartment. I know this because Kayamika's younger brother, who worked as a driver in our estate, sent me updates. "He's at the gate. Security just let him in. He's been inside for 10 minutes. Just heard him yelling. He's coming back out. Looks very angry. He's talking on the phone." My own phone rang moments later. I let it go to voicemail. Chinedu's voice was barely controlled rage. "Ada, I know you can hear this. I don't know what game you think you're playing, but it ends now. You took your things and left like a thief in the night? After everything I've done for you? You have until tomorrow morning to come home and explain yourself, or I swear to God, you'll regret this." I saved the voicemail. Another piece of evidence. Ngozi called an hour later. He just tried to access the apartment. The landlord informed him that you've changed the locks per my instructions, and that he's no longer authorized to enter the premises. "Can he do that?" I asked. "It's technically his apartment." "Actually, it's not," Ngozi said with satisfaction. "I pulled the lease agreement. The apartment is rented in both your names, with both signatures required for major decisions." When I informed the landlord of the domestic violence complaint and provided copies of the police report, he agreed to temporarily restrict Chinedu's access for your safety. It's standard procedure in domestic violence cases. "Where will Chinedu go?" I asked, surprised to find I didn't actually care. "That's his problem," Ngozi said coldly. "He has plenty of friends who hosted him while he was betraying you. Let them host him now. Speaking of which, I have news about the business. The investors officially removed him as managing partner this afternoon. They've appointed an interim CEO and launched a full audit of the dealership's finances." "How did Chinedu react?" "He doesn't know yet. They tried to reach him, but his phone has been going straight to voicemail. I assume he's been too busy harassing you to charge it. They've sent formal notification to his lawyer." "His lawyer?" I hadn't considered that Chinedu might already have legal representation. "Every criminal gets a lawyer eventually," Ngozi said. "But it won't help him much. The evidence is overwhelming. The EFCC investigation is moving forward, the domestic violence complaint is filed, and now his business partners are considering their own fraud charges. Your husband is facing potential jail time, Ada." Jail time. The word should have brought me satisfaction, but instead I felt strangely hollow. "Ada." Ngozi's voice softened. "Are you okay?" "I don't know," I admitted. 8 years of my life, and it's all come to this. Part of me keeps thinking there must have been another way. A way to fix things without destroying everything. "You didn't destroy everything," Ngozi said firmly. "Chinedu did. You're just holding him accountable. There's a difference." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking my phone, watching Chinedu's calls pile up, 37 missed calls by midnight. Then the messages started coming from other numbers. His mother, "Adiz, what is this nonsense I'm hearing? Chinedu says you've abandoned your marriage. Call me immediately." His sister Ifeoma, "Ada, I don't know what's happening, but you need to come home. Brother is going crazy. Whatever he did, I'm sure you two can work it out." Even Emeka, one of the friends who'd watched Chinedu kick me, "Madam Ada, please come back. Brothers is not himself. He needs you." Not one of them asked if I was okay. Not one of them acknowledged what Chinedu had done to me. It was all about him, his feelings, his needs, his breakdown. I turned off my phone and tried to sleep, but my mind wouldn't stop racing. Was I doing the right thing? Was this revenge or justice? And why did it feel so much like grief? At 2 a.m., someone started pounding on my apartment door. My heart stopped. Only 3 people knew where I was staying: Ngozi, Kayamaka, and the building security. Unless... Ada, I know you're in there. Chinedu's voice, slurred with alcohol. Open this door right now. Terror flooded through me. How had he found me? How had he gotten past security? I'm calling the police, I shouted through the door, already dialing. Call them. Call whoever you want. You're my wife. You don't get to just leave. You don't get to freeze my accounts and turn my business partners against me. So he knew. About all of it. You did this to yourself, Chinedu, I said, phone pressed to my ear as it rang. Every single consequence is from your own actions. My actions. He laughed, wild and bitter. I gave you everything. A home, status, respect. And this is how you repay me. By trying to destroy my life. You kicked me, I said quietly. You cheated on me. You stole from me. You told your girlfriend I was your ex-wife. You planned to divorce me and leave me with nothing. But somehow I'm the villain. That's different. That's... Men make mistakes, Ada. We're not perfect. But you don't destroy your husband's entire life over a mistake. The police dispatcher answered, and I quickly gave them the address and situation. They promised to send officers immediately. The police are coming, I told Chinedu through the door. You should leave. Let them come, he shouted. Let everyone come. Let them hear about how my own wife betrayed me. About how she... His voice cut off suddenly. I heard scuffling, then building security. Sir, you need to leave. Sir, I'm warning you. More scuffling. A crash. Then silence. I crept to the door and peered through the peephole. 3 security guards had Chinedu pinned against the hallway wall. He was struggling, shouting incoherently, clearly drunk out of his mind. Let me go. That's my wife. My wife. The police arrived within 15 minutes. Impressive for Lagos. They took statements from me, the security guards, and Chinedu, who by then had dissolved into alternating rage and tears. She's destroying me, he kept saying. My own wife is destroying me. One of the officers, a woman in her 40s, looked at him with pure disgust. You destroyed yourself, sir. Now you're under arrest for trespassing, creating a public disturbance, and violating a domestic violence protection order. What protection order? Chinedu looked genuinely confused. Nobody served me with any. You were served 3 days ago, the officer said. Through your lawyer. You're required to maintain a distance of at least 500 meters from Mrs. Okonkwo. Yet here you are, drunk, making threats at her door at 2 a.m. They handcuffed him and led him away. As he passed my door, he looked directly at the peephole, as if he knew I was watching. This isn't over, Ada, he said quietly. You think you've won, but this isn't over. It sounded less like a threat and more like a promise. The next morning, Ngozi arrived at my apartment with coffee and bad news. Chinedu was released on bail at 6 a.m., she said. His family posted it. That was fast, I said, wrapping my hands around the coffee cup for warmth despite the Lagos heat. His mother is connected. She called in favors. Ngozi set down her briefcase. But here's the thing, the arrest last night actually helps our case. He violated a protection order while drunk and aggressive. Any judge will take that seriously. He said his lawyer never served him with a protection order. His lawyer did. 2 days ago. I have the confirmation receipt. Chinedu's either lying or his lawyer didn't properly inform him. Either way, it's not our problem. I nodded, but anxiety gnawed at my stomach. He said this isn't over. What if he tries something else? Something worse? Then we'll deal with it, Ngozi said firmly. But Ada, you need to understand, we're past the point of no return now. The business investigation is public. His arrest made the morning news. Society bloggers are already posting about it. There's no going back to the way things were. I don't want to go back, I said. I just want this to be over. It will be. But first, there's something else we need to address. Ngozi pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot. Chinedu's mother posted this on Instagram an hour ago. It was a photo of me and Chinedu from our wedding day, both of us smiling, looking impossibly young and happy. The caption read, "Praying for my son and his wife during this difficult time. Marriage is sacred. The devil is working overtime to destroy godly unions, but we will not let him win. Adiz, my daughter, please come home." Whatever problems you have with Chinedu can be solved through prayer and counsel, not through lawyers and courts. A woman who destroys her husband's life has destroyed her own soul. #SaveOurMarriages, #FamilyFirst, #Forgiveness is key. The post had over 2,000 likes and hundreds of comments, mostly from people who didn't know me or the situation, all agreeing that I was a wicked wife destroying a good man. I felt sick. "She's turning this into a religious battle," I said. "Making me look like the villain." "Which is why we're going to tell your side of the story," Ngozi said. "Not on social media, that's a losing game. But through the proper channels. I've arranged an interview with a journalist from Genevieve magazine. She covers stories about domestic violence and women's rights. She wants to hear your story." "An interview? Like, my name and face in a magazine?" "Your choice," Ngozi said. "But right now, Chinedu's family is controlling the narrative. They're painting you as a bitter, vindictive wife. The truth needs to come out, not for revenge, but so other women in similar situations know they're not alone." I thought about Rhoda, who'd trusted Chinedu and lost her savings. About the other women he'd probably manipulated over the years. About the wives reading Mama Ojeki's Instagram post and thinking I was the problem. "Set up the interview," I said. My phone rang. An unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Adiz. A man's voice, unfamiliar. "My name is Ikenna Okafor. I'm a private investigator. I'm calling because I have information about your husband that you need to hear." My blood ran cold. "What kind of information?" "Not over the phone. Can we meet today, if possible? Trust me, what I have to show you changes everything." I looked at Ngozi, who'd heard enough of the conversation to look concerned. "What kind of information?" I repeated. "The kind that proves your husband's problems go much deeper than infidelity and fraud," Ikenna said. "The kind that involves offshore accounts, money laundering, and connections to some very dangerous people. The kind that could get both of you killed if we're not careful." Everything just got much more dangerous. What could this private investigator know? Comment your theories below. Don't miss next chapter. The explosive finale where all of Chinedu's secrets are revealed and Adiz's revenge reaches its ultimate conclusion. Like, subscribe, and share this story with everyone who loves dramatic justice. We met Ikenna Okafor at a quiet restaurant in Ikoyi, neutral ground, public enough to be safe but private enough for sensitive conversation. He was a stocky man in his 50s, with tired eyes that had seen too much and a worn leather briefcase that looked like it carried the weight of the world. "Mrs. Okonkwo," he greeted me, shaking my hand. "Thank you for meeting me on such short notice." Ngozi sat beside me, every inch the protective lawyer. "Before we start, Mr. Okafor, I need to know who hired you and what your interest in this case is." Ikenna smiled slightly. "Straight to business. I like that." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. "I wasn't hired by anyone in relation to the Okonkwo case specifically. I was hired 6 months ago by First Atlantic Bank to investigate suspected money laundering through several luxury car dealerships in Lagos. Your husband's dealership was one of them." My stomach dropped. "Money laundering? The tax fraud and customs violations you've already uncovered? That's just the surface." Ikenna spread several documents across the table. Bank statements, wire transfer records, photographs of Chinedu meeting with men I didn't recognize. Your husband has been washing money for a syndicate that smuggles stolen luxury vehicles from Europe and the Middle East into Nigeria. The dealership is the perfect front. Nobody questions why a luxury car dealership has so much cash flow. Ngozi leaned forward, scanning the documents with professional precision. How much money are we talking about? Conservatively, over 200 million naira in the past 2 years. I felt like I couldn't breathe. 200 million naira. Money laundering. Criminal syndicates. This wasn't just about a cheating husband anymore. This was serious organized crime. Why are you telling us this? I asked. If you're investigating Chinedu for the bank, shouldn't you be talking to the police? I have been, Ikenna said. The EFCC already has my preliminary report. But I'm here because of something I discovered yesterday. He pulled out another photo, this one of Chinedu sitting across from a man with distinctive tribal marks on his face. This man is Alhaji Bello Sadiq. He's the head of the smuggling operation. And according to the conversation I recorded between them, Chinedu has been skimming money from the operation. He's stealing from criminals? Ngozi's voice was sharp with alarm. Is he insane? Desperate, more likely, Ikenna said. From what I can tell, he's been moving funds into offshore accounts under his girlfriend's name, the woman called Rhoda. But the operation noticed money going missing. They've been investigating internally for weeks. And 3 days ago, they figured out it was Chinedu. 3 days ago, I repeated. That's when he went to Abuja. He wasn't there for business or romance, he was running. Exactly. But then you froze his accounts. His business partners removed him, and suddenly he has nowhere to run and no resources to disappear with. So he came back to Lagos, drunk and desperate, to try to salvage something. The room spun around me. I thought I'd been executing a careful revenge plot against an unfaithful, abusive husband. But I'd accidentally trapped him in Lagos just as dangerous criminals were closing in. Mrs. Okonkwo, Ikenna said gently, I need you to understand something. These people don't play by legal rules. If they believe you're involved in Chinedu's theft, or that you know where their money is, you're in danger too. But I don't know anything. I protested. I had no idea about any of this. I believe you. The EFCC believes you. But Alhaji Bello? He won't care about evidence or innocence. He'll assume you and Chinedu are working together, and he'll come after both of you. Ngozi's face had gone pale. We need to get Ada into protective custody. Now. Already arranged, Ikenna said. I have contacts in the police force who can provide protection while the EFCC builds their case. But there's something else. He looked directly at me. Mrs. Okonkwo, your husband is going to try to use you as a bargaining chip. He'll either try to frame you as an accomplice to redirect suspicion, or he'll try to trade you for leniency. Either way, you need to be prepared. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. We need to talk. Not about us. About survival. Meet me at the apartment. Come alone. This is bigger than our marriage. See. I showed it to Ikenna and Ngozi. They exchanged meaningful looks. It's a trap, Ngozi said immediately. Or a genuine warning, Ikenna countered. He might actually be trying to protect you. Or himself. Either way, you can't go. But something in Chinedu's message felt different from his previous threats. This wasn't rage or manipulation. This was fear. What if he knows something? I asked. Something that could help the investigation? Or something that proves I wasn't involved? Ada, no, Ngozi said firmly. You're not meeting him. It's too dangerous. She won't be alone, Ikenna said suddenly. I can provide surveillance. Backup. If Chinedu actually has information worth hearing, we need to get it. But Mrs. Okonkwo will be protected the entire time. I looked at both of them, Ngozi with her lawyer's caution, Ikenna with his investigator's calculated risk assessment, and made a decision that terrified me. I'll meet him. But only in a public place. The apartment isn't safe. Ikenna nodded. Good thinking. Tell him you'll meet at the Civic Center in Victoria Island. Open space, lots of people, multiple exit points. I typed back, Civic Center. 2 p.m. I'm bringing people with me. If this is a setup, you'll regret it. Chinidu's response came immediately. I'm way past regrets, Ada. Just come. Please. The Civic Center was bustling with afternoon activity. Wedding parties taking photos, families enjoying the gardens, hawkers selling everything from plantain chips to phone accessories. Ikena's team had positioned themselves strategically around the area, dressed as regular Lagosians but watching everything. Ngozi sat at a nearby bench, pretending to read a newspaper but keeping me in her peripheral vision. Chinidu arrived exactly at 2 p.m., looking nothing like the confident man I'd married. His usually immaculate appearance was disheveled, wrinkled shirt, unshaven face, eyes red-rimmed from either alcohol or lack of sleep. Maybe both. Thank you for coming, he said, sitting down at the bench I'd chosen. He kept glancing around nervously. Are we being watched? Yes, I said honestly. By people protecting me from you. So say what you need to say, Chinidu. Quickly. He laughed bitterly. Protecting you from me. That's rich. Ada, I'm not your problem. I'm not anyone's problem much longer. What does that mean? He leaned closer, and I instinctively pulled back. He noticed and flinched like I'd slapped him. I deserve that, he said quietly. I deserve all of this. The business, the arrests, the shame. I deserve it because you're right. I'm a terrible husband. A terrible person. But Ada, I never meant for you to get dragged into the rest of it. The money laundering, I said. I know about it, Chinidu. I know about Alhaji Bello and the stolen cars and everything. His eyes widened with genuine shock. How? I had help. Good help. People who actually care about justice. Then you know I'm finished, he said. The EFCC has evidence. My business partners have turned on me. And Alhaji's people. He shuddered. They've already sent warnings. Threatening my mother, my sister. They think I still have their money. Do you? I asked. Some of it. Maybe 40 million naira in an offshore account. I was going to use it to start over somewhere else. Dubai, maybe, or Ghana. Somewhere I could disappear and build a new life. He looked at me with something that might have been regret. I was going to ask you to come with me. Before everything fell apart. I actually thought we could leave Lagos behind and start fresh. I stared at him, unable to process what I was hearing. You were going to ask me to run away with you? To become a fugitive? After everything you did to me? I know how it sounds, he said quickly. But Ada, you have to understand, I was trapped. The business was failing. I took money from the wrong people to keep it afloat. Then I couldn't pay them back, so I had to work for them. And then I was in too deep to get out. Everything I did, the affairs, the emotional distance, even pushing you away, it was to protect you. To keep you separate from all this. By kicking me? I said coldly. By humiliating me in front of your friends? By planning to divorce me and take everything? That was protection. That was panic. He ran his hands through his hair. Ada, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I'm asking for one last favor. The offshore account, it's in my name, but I can't access it anymore. Everything's frozen. But if I transfer it to you, you could withdraw it. You could give it back to Alhaji Bello and save both our lives. And there it was. The real reason for this meeting. You want me to help you return stolen money to a criminal, I said slowly. Money that will probably be traced back to me, making me look like an accomplice. Money that could get me arrested or worse. I'll give them a statement. Chinidu insisted. I'll tell them you knew nothing, that I used your identity without permission. I'll take all the blame. Just please, Ada. Please. These people don't make idle threats. If I don't return their money, they'll kill me. And they might kill you too, just to make sure there are no loose ends. I looked at this man I'd spent 8 years loving, supporting, believing in. This man who'd kicked me, betrayed me, stolen from me, and was now asking me to risk everything to save his miserable life. "No," I said simply. His face crumbled. "Ada." "No," I repeated, standing up. "You made your choices, Chinedu. Every single one. You chose to work with criminals. You chose to steal from them. You chose to treat me like garbage while using my money and my loyalty. And now you're choosing to try to manipulate me one last time." "I'm not manipulating you. I'm begging you." He stood too, desperation making him loud. Several people nearby turned to look. "Ada, please. They're going to kill me." "Then go to the police," I said. "Cooperate with the EFCC. Enter witness protection. There are legal options." "You don't understand," he said, tears actually streaming down his face now. "Al-Haji has people inside the police. Inside the EFCC. There's nowhere safe. The only way I survive this is if I give him his money back and disappear. And I can't do that without you." Ikenna appeared at my elbow, a subtle reminder of the protection surrounding me. "Mrs. Okonkwo, we should go." Chinedu looked at Ikenna, then back at me. Something changed in his expression, recognition, maybe, or understanding that I'd planned this entire meeting. "You're working with them," he said slowly. "With the investigators. You're helping them build a case against me." "I'm protecting myself," I corrected. "Something you never did for me. After everything we had." "We had nothing," I interrupted. "We had a lie that I believed because I wanted to believe it. But I'm done lying. To you, to myself, to everyone. You're on your own, Chinedu." I turned to walk away, and he grabbed my arm. Immediately, 3 of Ikenna's team members materialized from the crowd, hands moving toward concealed weapons. "Don't touch her," Ikenna said quietly, but with unmistakable authority. Chinedu released my arm like it had burned him. "Ada, please. I'm your husband. For better or worse, remember? You took vows." "So did you," I said. "And you broke every single one. Goodbye, Chinedu." I walked away without looking back, flanked by Ikenna and his team. Behind me, I heard Chinedu calling my name, his voice breaking with what sounded like genuine despair. But I didn't stop. I didn't turn around. I just kept walking toward the car that would take me back to my new apartment, my new lawyer, my new life. 3 days later, Chinedu was arrested by the EFCC in a coordinated raid. They found him trying to cross the border into Benin Republic with a fake passport and 5 million naira in cash. Money he'd apparently managed to access through channels nobody had known about. Al-Haji Bello and 15 members of his smuggling operation were arrested simultaneously. The investigation had been building for months, and Chinedu's panicked actions had given investigators the final pieces they needed. I learned all of this from the news, not from personal involvement. I'd given my statement to the EFCC, provided all the evidence I had, and then stepped back. This was no longer my fight, it was the law's. Rhoda also gave a statement, and thanks to Ngozi's intervention, wasn't charged as an accomplice. She got some of her money back through asset seizure and started rebuilding her life. The domestic violence case proceeded separately. Chinedu's arrest on criminal charges meant our divorce would be straightforward, especially with his family suddenly eager to distance themselves from the scandal. Mama Ojeki never apologized for her Instagram post, but she did take it down. She also stopped calling me her daughter. 6 months after everything fell apart, I sat in Ngozi's office signing the final divorce papers. "How do you feel?" Ngozi asked gently. "Free," I said. And I meant it. I'd lost 8 years to a bad marriage. I'd lost money, pride, peace of mind. But I'd gained something too, the knowledge that I was strong enough to fight back, smart enough to protect myself, and brave enough to start over. The revenge I'd planned, the careful dismantling of Chinedu's life, had turned into something much bigger than I'd imagined. But in the end, it wasn't my revenge that destroyed him. It was his own choices, his own crimes, his own arrogance finally catching up with him. I walked out of Ngozi's office into the Lagos afternoon, my phone buzzing with messages from Kayamaka asking about dinner plans, from my boss discussing a promotion, from a potential date Kayamaka had been encouraging me to meet. Life was moving forward. Without Chinedu. Without his family's judgment. Without the weight of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. My phone buzzed one more time. An unknown number with a message, "I hope you're satisfied. I hope destroying me was worth it. You'll regret this, Ada. One day, you'll regret it all." I stared at the message for a long moment, recognizing Chinedu's voice even through text. Then I blocked the number, deleted the message, and kept walking. Some people never learn. Some people spend their entire lives blaming others for consequences they brought upon themselves. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I was free. And that was the best revenge of all. 2 years later, I stood in my own office. Not a cubicle, but an actual office with my name on the door, as the head of financial analysis for one of West Africa's largest consulting firms. My article in Genevieve magazine about surviving domestic violence and financial abuse had gone viral, leading to speaking engagements, advocacy work, and connections with other survivors who'd shared their stories with me. Rhoda and I had become unlikely friends. She'd rebuilt her business and was dating a kind man who loved her daughter like his own. Kayamaka was my business partner in a side venture, a financial literacy program for women, teaching them to protect their assets and recognize financial red flags in relationships. As for Chinedu, he was serving a 7-year sentence for money laundering and fraud. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he spent his time in prison writing me letters that I never read. Apologies, explanations, justifications. None of it mattered anymore. I'd moved on. Not to another man, though I'd dated a few, but to a version of myself that I actually liked. A woman who knew her worth. A woman who wouldn't shrink herself to make others comfortable. A woman who understood that sometimes the best revenge is simply refusing to let someone's betrayal define your future. The kick that had started everything, that moment of shock and humiliation in front of Chinedu's friends, had ultimately freed me from a cage I'd been living in for years without realizing it. And now, standing in my corner office overlooking Lagos Harbor, successful and independent and genuinely happy, I finally understood what everyone meant when they said the best revenge is living well. They were right. Thank you so much for watching Adi's journey from betrayal to triumph. What did you think of her story? Was her revenge justified? Comment below with your thoughts. If this story resonated with you or someone you know, please share it. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Echoes of Africa for more powerful stories of resilience and justice, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our next upload. Remember, you are stronger than you think, and no one has the right to diminish your light. Until next time, stay strong, stay blessed, and keep echoing. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments. We love hearing from our global family.